It says this, verse 1, Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 1. These are the statutes and judgments which you shall be careful to observe in the land which the Lord your God of your fathers is giving you to possess, all the days that you live on the earth. You shall utterly destroy all the places where the nations which you shall dispossess serve their gods, on the high mountains and on the hills and under every green tree. And you shall destroy their altars, break their pillars, and burn their wooden images with fire. You shall cut down the carved images of their gods and destroy their names from that place. Notice their names. You shall not worship the Lord your God with such things. But you shall seek the place where the Lord your God chooses out of all your tribes to put his name, his dwelling place, and there you shall go. So in the first paragraph I write this. The general thought being conveyed in Deuteronomy 12 is that Yahweh wants to be worshipped in ways he commands. Israel is not to worship other gods or try to worship Yahweh in manners reminiscent of foreign gods. The opening verses of Deuteronomy 12 command Israel to destroy all the idols and places where foreign gods have been worshipped. The only thing Yahweh wanted from Israel when it came to dealing with idolatry was the utter destruction of the idols and the places where those idols were formerly worshipped. I once helped a lady move from one place to another, and a believing friend came along to help. Hanging on the wall, the place where the lady was moving was a piece of obvious idolatry. My friend proceeded to remove the idol and went out to the parking lot where he threw the idol down as hard as he could. The idol smashed into numerous small fragments, and we swept it up and placed them into a trash can. While I intuitively knew we had done the right thing, it wasn't until I read Deuteronomy 12 I realized we had done the right thing as commanded in Torah. I remain amazed, here's the key. I remain amazed at how many well-meaning but naive believers have small items of art, memorabilia, souvenirs, and other idols living inside their home. Any idol, no matter how seemingly innocent looking, that has been dedicated to idolatry needs to be, any item, no matter how seemingly innocent looking, that has been dedicated to idolatry needs to be destroyed. Several years back, as our family moved, one of those helping us pack noticed that we had a solar disc commemorating a pagan idol. I didn't even know we had the item, but when I first saw it, I didn't know it was dedicated as an idol. I immediately set about to destroy the item, making sure that we left it out in the garbage. When we house things that belong to the evil one, we give permission for him to come and visit that which belongs to him. Often items that come from foreign countries look innocent only to carry a sinister presence of evil as they are idols. Some will demur that the item is not an idol to them, and while that may be true, the issue is not what you think about, but what the evil one believes about the item. You say, well, it's not an idol to me. I don't worship it. I don't bow down to that thing. Doesn't mean anything to me. I just have it sitting on the shelf. I say, well, that's great. But the evil one thinks it's his stuff. He says, I'm going to come visit my stuff if you have it. So, the issue is, who does it belong to? Classic example, just up in Alaska. Classic example, one of the things that Christians love to get when you're in Alaska or you live there, totem poles. Totem poles are all over the place in Alaska. And they make these decorative art totem poles that are wax candles, right? Take a wax candle home for your little totem pole. Easy enough, right? Beautiful artwork. Looks lovely. It's a nice souvenir. The only problem is it's dedicated to a foreign god. So what does that mean anything to me? Again, I think we're missing the point. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that a lot of Americans are falling into is the peace symbol. Peace symbol is not a symbol of peace. It's a Wiccan symbol. Now, on top of that, it represents the broken property of Christ.
Huh.
And I have actually looked it up. I was confused, but that's the truth. And you see, we'll show you the books and stuff on it. And I tell the brothers, you're opening the door. That's right. The Wiccan one. I'm into that tribe where you realize you're not.
Yeah, I don't have one. I don't have any research on it.
I see people don't have.
What did she say?
She's talking about peace symbols.
The peace symbol.
So,
What she
Just
said.
like up.
Huh?
Right.
Say again what she
she was
said.
saying that the peace symbol represents, comes out of wicked backgrounds. So I think you need to do, yeah, I think you need to do some research on it. I mean, everybody has to do their own, I don't have one, I mean, everybody should do their
She's
research.
not talking about this, she's talking about the circle with
Yeah,
it.
the circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
remember
I
the
know,
circle.
okay, now I'm talking about it.
No, that's like victory. That's different.
Yeah,
She's
okay.
talking about the circle.
I was gonna say, man, we can't do the peace anymore, like,
No, it's the upside down cross.
okay. No, but I'm just saying that, here's one for you. Here's one for you. This is all over, this comes out of Kabbalism. The Hamza, with the all-seeing eye.
Oh,
Right?
that's right.
It's just all this eye is supposed to be able to follow you and keep an eye on you. Okay, so this is, if you do a list of this kind of, you see this kind of stuff, the best thing you can do is to stay away from it. You don't need to have it. Don't put it in your home. Don't have it in your car. Don't put things dedicated to other gods in your possession or in your province. Don't need to. You don't need to. So,
Peace symbol was also used as symbol for the
okay. Got enough reason there. All right. Yes.
Just remember that she brought up, that peace symbol used to be pagan fertility symbol.
Okay. So I think research has to be done, and I'm all for that. You know, if in doubt, throw it out. It doesn't need to be. But my point is that it's easy to gather around us without even realizing it, and especially as you visit other countries, and you don't even know that what you're taking in is or belongs to a foreign god. It belongs to something that says, "This is my stuff. Thanks for taking my things. That's dedicated to me and to the worship of me." Then you just have to be careful. So he says, look, the thing you do with idolatry is any kind of idol, destroy it. I had a friend, Messianic believer. He gets he joins a fraternity at UW. Well, the older fraternities and sororities are based on Greek. It's all Sigma Pi, and which I like pi. Don't get me wrong. I about joined that just because they had pi. I was like, hey, fraternity with pi. But all these fraternities have, they're all about Greek, okay? Because all the names are. And so he joins the fraternity, thinking, hey, this is a great thing. It's a way to integrate myself into the UW community. I'm not picking on UW. My point is, he gets his pen in the mail. His fraternity pen. And his fraternity pen has etched on it a Greek god. Graven image. Said, that's a Greek god. He looked at me and went, yeah, you're right, I can't wear that. And now you got to destroy it. Hope your fraternity doesn't mind. But you can't wear on your lapel something honoring a Greek god. I'm sitting beside a guy at a baseball stadium. I look down at the side of his leg. He's got a tattoo of a Greek god, I mean a Egyptian god. I recognized it. I said, that's an Egyptian. I striking up conversation. I never met this guy before. I said, you realize your tattoo is a Egyptian deity, right? And he goes, oh yeah, I know. Okay. People putting stuff on their body, pins, all kinds of stuff. Torah says don't do it. Don't give credence to things that belong to other deities or other gods. Don't make place for them. Okay? Let's continue reading. On the sheet I gave you, it says this. The second theme of this came up. The second theme of the 12th chapter is the name of Yahweh. This chapter repeatedly speaks of the coming tabernacle as the place where Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Yahweh, has chosen to place his name. Here, the name does not refer to how we pronounce his name or how the name was to be written. The name, that in quotes, of Yahweh speaks of his presence and power. The tabernacle would be the place where the presence and power of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh would reside in a special way, unlike it would in other locales. The basic meaning of the name Yahweh is our God is with us. That's the key. Which again speaks of his covenant presence to bring about his will. He keeps saying this over and over. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm going to be with you. Because it speaks of his covenant faithfulness. That God will be with us. This is why the child, the Messiah, was supposed to be named Emmanuel. Or at least give that title, Emmanuel, God with us. And I said before, what does Yeshua say? Matthew 28, as he leaves, lo, I am with you always. I'll always be with you. That's the thing I want us to keep in mind as time moves on. That it may seem like we live in a world that God is not present. But at the end of the day, he is with us. I'm reminded of what the Apostle Paul said. But to live is Christ, to die is gain. What can this world take from me but my body? That's the most they can take. Write this. Many within the Messianic movement have become infatuated and distracted with trying to figure out how the name of Yahweh is pronounced, reducing his name to an issue of grammar. This unhealthy trek into marginal issues has created more heat than light, in my opinion, failed to comprehend the message the text is trying to convey. In other words, it's not about, I'm not worried about the pronunciation. Pronounce how you want to. As long as you surrender to him. And as long as you acknowledge his presence. You know, it's not. You got people sitting around on the internet going, "Oh, if you don't say it my way, then I'm done with you."
Oh, no, they condemn you to hell if you don't say it right.
Oh no,
You're
there's
gonna be
believe me,
judged.
I've had it say that God won't listen to your prayer. You know, you can't be saved. They won't talk to you. It's like, really? Over a pronunciation? You know, we sometimes in our movement we have majored on the minors and minored on the majors. And this is a classic example of one. You guys got to go back to the 90s when this was a rampant issue in the Messianic movement. Everybody sitting around going, "Oh my stars! You better pick. We got it figured out." And they spent hours and hours and hours trying to worry about grammar. Not worried about it. I said it this way: not as worried about me knowing his name as him knowing my name. I want him to know me. I want him to say, "I know you," instead of saying, "I never knew you." So, top of page 2. So filled with covenant love for his people is Yahweh that even though his own people have ignored and at times rejected him, he still wants to create a place where he can manifest his presence and power in our midst. No matter how his people have responded, no matter how his people have acted, God has always continued to work to create sacred space. He says to the body of Messiah at large, the Apostle Paul does, "You are the tabernacle. I'm going to dwell in you as a people." All right. Chapter 12 also reminds us. Let's keep reading. I want to keep reading chapter 12. So go with me to verse 8. He says, "You shall not at all do as we are doing here in his own eyes, but every man doing what is right in his own eyes. For as yet you have not come to the rest and the inheritance which the Lord your God has given you. But when you cross over the Jordan and dwell in the land which the Lord your God has given you to inherit, and he gives you rest from all your enemies round about, so that you dwell in safety, then there will be the place where the Lord your God chooses to make his name abide. There you shall bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, the heave offering of your hand, and all your choice offerings which you vow to the Lord. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, you and your sons and your daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levite who is within your gates, since he has no portion or inheritance with you. Take heed that to yourself you do not offer your burnt offering to every place that you see, but in the place which the Lord chooses, in one of your tribes, there you will offer your burnt offerings, and there you shall do all that I command you. So he mentions the Levites, and later on he's going to mention the Levites again. So look what I write here. He says, chapter 12 also reminds the Israelites that the Levites living among them, need their care. The Levites received no tribal land inheritance like the other 11 tribes. The tribe of Levi was dedicated solely to ministry to the spiritual needs of the nation, like intercession and spiritual instruction. It would be easy for Israel to forget those who daily ministered in the tabernacle on their behalf. So Yahweh reminds them to invite the Levite to the barbecue. If you're going to have a barbecue, invite the Levite. They don't have any, support those who minister among them. One whole tribe, he says, since they're going to minister spiritually, you have to minister to them physically. All of you, the other 11, have to work towards helping them. And he builds this into the system to teach Israel, hey, you've got to look outside yourselves. Move beyond your own walls and think there are other people who have needs. So that you stand outside yourself for a moment and say, you know what, I'm not the only one in my universe. It's not just about meeting my needs, but how do I help meet the needs of other people? This becomes the way that people who pursue Torah think. They think, well, now that God has met my needs, how do I help to move beyond that to meet the needs of other people? To make sure they have food, clothing, and shelter. And to lift them up and give them a chance to move in positive Torah directions. This is the way God wants us to move. So he sets it within the nation to say there's one whole tribe that has to be cared for. All right. I want to move on here. He says this.
I got a question about
Yes, go ahead.
So there's a certain the tithe and offerings that where you have to take it over to Jerusalem, and then would you be bringing the Levites with you and go give it to the Lord and eat, drink, and party over there in Jerusalem? But then we also see the suggesting you do it in the town, but it didn't really. Which was it the New Moon festival that you did it in your towns for the town?
You would see that's part of the case. Let me read this part here. Let's try to answer that. Hold on that.
Also, if you could, what did they do before the location was announced by the prophet? Because he spent a large portion of time before the temple was built and after the temple.
Right. Okay, good question. He says there, before we get to the temple, where would they bring sacrifices? There seem to be, in the text, places where there were sacrifices offered prior to the temple, like Shiloh and a few other places, where it seems that these were places of sacrifice. Before we get to Jerusalem and the temple there, to your first question, in verse 15, let's read this and then we'll come back to that question. It says this, however, you may slaughter and eat meat within all your gates, whatever your heart desires, according to the blessing of the Lord your God, which he has given you. The unclean and the clean may eat of it, of the gazelle and the deer alike. Oh, you shall not eat the blood. You shall pour it out on the earth like water. You may not eat within your gates the tithe of your grain or your new wine or your oil or the firstborn of your herd or your flock, of any of your offerings which you vow, of your freewill offerings or of the heave offering of your hand. But you must eat them before the Lord your God in the place which the Lord your God chooses. You and your son and your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, and the Levite who is within your gates. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God in all to which you put your hands. Take heed to yourself, do not forsake the Levite as long as you live in your land. Back to that again. Okay, so it would seem that when we're dealing with first fruits, the firstlings of the flock and the firstlings of the crops, those have to be offered in Jerusalem. However, if it's just for your own personal eating, then you have to pour the blood out. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Let me read this little portion here on page 2. Chapter 12 addresses the concept that some Israelites will want to eat animals for meat, even though this does not appear to be part of the original Edenic diet. Deuteronomy chapter 14 will address additional topics of Torah-based diet. The one command given in regard to slaughtering an animal is that its blood must be poured back into the ground. Since blood is a life fluid, and life comes from and goes back to God, then blood shed must be given back to God. The ancient mind knew that life leaves a person or animal in one of two ways. Either the person, animal stops breathing, or if stabbed, cut, they can bleed out and die. The Torah has many commands regarding the use and treatment of blood, because blood was, in the words of Jacob Pilgrim, a ritual detergent to be used in the cleansing of the tabernacle. Okay, so if you're going to, it looks like the original diet, the Edenic diet, doesn't have meat in it, but when we get to Genesis chapter 6 through 9, it seems that it's introduced there. Then the question becomes, well, like you're saying, well, is all animals, is only when we sacrifice an animal that we can have meat? The answer becomes no. If it's a firstling, yes. If it's the first fruits of the field, yes, that has to go back to the temple. If you're going to kill an animal and barbecue it, so to speak, then you have to drain the blood right there and put it in the ground. Okay? Make sure you don't forget the Levite, bring him to the party as well. He doesn't have an inheritance, so he can eat as well. I think it's important for us to realize this. We in the West think that you build a meal, every meal around meat. The ancient peoples did not think you built every meal around meat. So that's where we have a difficulty. We're like, well, you know, everything's about, you got a meat, potatoes, and then a vegetable. From the ancient Near Eastern mindset, meat was primarily a delicacy that you had every now and again. After you kill a fatted calf, let this thing beef up, so to speak, then you kill it, call a party, you can't keep it around forever. So it's an occasional thing, not as much a everyday event. Okay? Lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, lots of legumes, those kinds of things. Different approach. So I don't think they had meat with every meal, from what we can tell historically. But when you do slaughter this animal, you drain the blood, and you can then enjoy it in your domicile. Or right here, and I'll come back over here. Go ahead.
In verse 15, it says, unclean and clean they eat of it.
Unclean and clean people.
Yeah.
Right. Not clean, unclean
I've
animals.
read things where they use this as saying clean and unclean, you make eat clean and unclean meat.
No.
It's
Let
clean
me
and unclean people.
What's an unclean person?
If you go to the tabernacle in Jerusalem, you are going to have to be clean to go in.
Oh, my ritual.
In other words, you're going to go through a mikvah in order to go in and offer your sacrifice, a ritual immersion. What today people would call baptism. The forerunner for baptism is the mikvah. The Catholic Church takes it over and says, well, it now becomes a rite, a passage. So in the Hebrew Scriptures, anytime a person went to the tabernacle, you would do an immersion. This is why near every synagogue just about, and right in front of the southern steps of the temple today, there are huge immersion areas so that anybody coming can immerse. Now what this is saying is, you had to be clean to go into the tabernacle and obviously participate in the slaughter there. For the slaughter of an animal in your own area, let's say you're up in the Galilee, you're up in the Golan Heights, you don't have to be in a state of clean or unclean. It doesn't matter whether you're clean or unclean in that instance when you slaughter this animal. Because you're doing so for your own personal usage. Jeremy, go ahead.
Two things. One, with the Genesis 6 being committed to, after the flood, eat the certain animals, some people believe that during the time on the ark, God temporarily restricted all meats just for the benefit of keeping them alive versus extinction. But the other question, I think Leviticus 15 talks about stopping sacrifices in the fields or anywhere to establish it at the temple. does that refer to God taking his everlasting sacrifice, which is established, and modifying it to be in a better way when he commanded it in a different way, perhaps?
So you're looking at Leviticus.
I think it was 15.
Okay, I'll have to go back, I want to go back and compare the two,
Okay.
but I'll get back with you on that one.
Because it said something like, I've established this to stop the sacrifice of the field.
Clearly, once the things are transitioning, they've been able at one point to offer sacrifice at certain sites because they didn't have a temple yet. So it looks like there's places where they can, like for instance, early on in Genesis, we have Cain, and Havel. Havel brings from the flocks. No, I'm wrong. Hold on. Which one brings the flocks?
Abel.
Abel. Thank you. So Havel, Abel. So one of them's bringing from the produce, one's bringing from the flocks. Okay. Doesn't matter because these are different offerings. It's fine. Okay. And so it looks like they're able to sacrifice there. In fact, God sacrifices an animal in the garden to cover a dung. Puts a skin on it, right? So it looks like as we move through Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, that there were places that were allowed for them to offer sacrifices to God. However, once he establishes the tabernacle and then the temple, then he says, no, that's where I want them brought. I don't want, from here on out, I want them centralized. I don't want them over here and over here and over here. Eventually, I want them all brought here. So there is this move towards centralization of them over time. So I don't have people going over here and moving all geographically all over the place. I want it centralized where I'm going to place my name. So that's a great question. I have not compared Leviticus, although the text Leviticus with this one, in order to be able to see how they're working together.
17.
Okay, all right, I'll look at it. I need to do that. One here and then one here. Go ahead.
Getting back to your mikvah is the cleansing.
Yes.
Paul refers to baptism as death and burial and a resurrection. If we accept Christ, we are baptized, we lay the earthly man in the grave, leave him there, and become out a new creation in Christ, living for him. Yeshua was baptized by John. Yeshua, until that day of baptism, was Joseph's son, Tacoma. After he was baptized, he was Messiah. Every step that he took was leading towards the cross.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that even
There's a difference between the two.
Yeah, even Yeshua submits to the immersion, and because look, I've asked this before. See, this reveals how we think. Did Yeshua become unclean? Yeah, he became unclean because unclean means that you walk in a fallen world. You walk in a world where there's death. People, you walk across grave sites. You touch a corpse. Whatever you do, you can become unclean. Unclean is not a sin. Unclean is a category status that prohibits you from going into the temple until you become clean. So this is the point that Gary was alluding to earlier. When it comes to, if you're up in the Galilee, you're not bringing a sacrifice. And to delineate these, here's what he says. That's the point. When you sacrifice this animal, normally if you sacrifice in the temple, the blood has to go on the altar, on the base of the altar, as a ritual detergent, so to speak. When you're out in the field, you're up in the Galilee, you slaughter this animal, what I want you to do is hike the legs and drain that blood. Put it right back in the ground. To demonstrate that the life came from me. You're going to give it back to me. So you get to eat the animal, take the hide, all that other stuff, but I want the blood. And he keeps saying, you see many Torah commands, like I've mentioned in the past, on blood. Do not ingest the blood. Why? Because it belongs to me for the altar. The life of the flesh is in the blood, Leviticus 17. So it's a ritual detergent. I don't want you using it for your own benefit, for your own purposes, other than within the confines of the tabernacle.
Like two things. First, what you call that period
I should just, he did it. He did it. He did it. He did it.
Did it.
Yeah, he-
And then the next one, how can Yeshua be unclean? I mean, he takes, he cleanses the leper and touches people who are, sickly and dying and raises the dead. I mean, because he is who he is, there, he's never going to be. I mean,
No, because he's going to walk amongst us. He's going to. This is the whole point of. This is the whole point of. The whole point of the day of Yom Kippur was that the tabernacle had inadvertently and accidentally become unclean.
But what I'm saying is the detergent is within him already. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say.
Right. I just have
His
no.
blood is what cleanses us. He's been
Right.
sacrificing.
Unclean. If it only has an issue. You only have an issue with it. You equate unclean with sin. Unclean is not a sin. So it wasn't a sin for him to be unclean. Unclean is a status category. It's a status category. Separate issue. So a person could be many people. For instance, Leviticus chapter 12 came through this. A woman who has a child is unclean. She has committed no sin in having the child. In fact, I think she should have the child. I think it's a good thing. God said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth. The only way you can do that is if women have children. Now, she is unclean because what has happened? Blood. Prior to menopause, once a month, every woman is unclean. Not that she sinned. She has committed no sin. She only commits a sin in the state of uncleanness if she tries to come into the tabernacle without first doing an immersion. Once she does the immersion, the uncleanness is gone. Only a sin if you don't take the remedy.
A lot of people focus on the women being unclean through certain events, and a lot of times people focus on, the so against women. But actually, there's a lot of commands about when men are unclean.
Absolutely.
With same sexual kind of acts.
I agree.
and things like that. So
Yes.
we are probably unclean more than they are.
You're right. It just happens to be more cyclical with women.
Yeah.
So, but speak on the other half, as Jeremy has said, men become unclean as well. So there you go, equal time. Men are just as unclean as women are. Agreed. And my point is this. My point is that, so
Anytime we've got
the point is that it's a status for going into the temple. As one is going to go into the temple or tabernacle, you have to be clean. The whole point of Leviticus 16, Day of Atonement, is that somebody or somebody's more than likely, and we're going to assume that they have accidentally, inadvertently come in here unclean over the course of a year. So what does Leviticus 16 say? We hit the reset button. God says, I want everybody out. Everybody out. High priest goes in and he puts blood on everything. He offers a sacrifice for himself. He offers a sacrifice for the people. He offers a sacrifice for the temple. And then he takes blood and he puts it on everything to ritually cleanse everything. So this is the reset button. So Yeshua being unclean doesn't mean that he ever committed a sin. It just simply means that his status for entry into the temple would require him to also immerse, which he does. If he never became unclean, he would never need to immerse, which we know he immersed. He had no problem with it.
Yeah, and I have another thing. I mean, I see all these things on TV. I mean, I saw something, I turned on the TV and it was happening to be on the station and I didn't even know, and I'm watching it and it's like, these people are like bathing in blood. And it was some weird, like, Dracula kind of vampire-y thing. And I just am increasingly concerned about how much the blood and drinking of blood and all this stuff is coming out in all these movies and TV shows and stuff like that. It just seems very satanic.
Untimely.
Yeah.
I'm really disturbed by that.
Yeah. This is why I think
Like,
one has to be. Yeah. Your point is, and I think you're right. I mean, to this extent, that one should be extremely careful and cautious and judicious in what you watch. What you let come in the eye gate, Be careful because, if it's clearly dedicated to things that are evil or glorifying things that are evil, or diminishing the importance of things that are holy, then I think we should be cautious. That's all I'm talking to say that. Everybody has to judge by their own conscience where you're going to go with that. Yeah.
So, my uncle is a missionary in Uganda, and his daughter went to Christian high school. Requires that they go on a outing for 1 month in their senior year where they go out and do something in the world. They kind of get locked in their isolated area. But one of the places they go is to a tribe up in the highlands in Africa. And they have sacrificed a goat for these visitors. And it is a huge honor. And the guest is supposed to drink the blood from the goat's throat. Right? And it is extremely dishonorable and extremely offensive to not do this. I wondered many times how to approach that. I mean, the Bible says not to do this, obviously I would be fine, but
Yeah, I'd have to find another way to honor them. That would be a tough one because I hear what you're saying and I understand that it's cultural. By the way, there's a lot of cultures around the world that ingesting blood is considered something that one does, and just on a routine basis. That blood puddings, drinks mixed with blood. It's a lot of things, or where they don't even drain the blood from the animal. It's just allowed to be in the animal. They don't even work to drain it. So, I think that's not that situation.
Yeah. Or we asked about the movies or shows. Seeing shows on Netflix and having my daughter watch shows, sometimes there's whole episodes or whole shows or few interesting episodes that are not super friendly. So I would request, if anyone has a Netflix account, call Netflix and ask them to be able to do a filter or a personal block on profiles.
Yeah, you can do that.
If nothing asked, they will do it.
Good word. Skip with me to verses 29. I got to finish this up. Verse. Oh, go ahead.
There's something significant about, as far as, it sounds like there's something significant about blood going back into the land. It mentions it over and over again. And I don't know if that's part of the industry gives that in the account or not. If we have our own little hobby flag or something like that, how significant that is. Do you think that's something that's, as far as, is that something significant to the health of the land? Or is it just saying that as in, like, if you're not putting it in your candles or your
Well, clearly we have multiple. I didn't bring them today. But clearly, we have multiple texts in the Torah. It goes out of its way repeatedly to talk numerous times about do not ingest blood. So, obviously the Torah is concerned with this issue. It's a very, very significant cultural issue. By the way, I said this earlier, in the ancient Near East and other cultures, it's a big issue. So, our culture doesn't really value the drinking of blood. I want to say this too, so that I know that this is going to come up. This is one of those halakhic questions. So here's how the rabbis, this is one of the halakhic questions that comes up because you're dealing with this. It's my own halakhic decision, my own halakhic thinking on this. Halakha means the way you walk. Halakha means to walk, so halakha means the way you walk. And so a halakhic decision would be when the rabbis would get together and say, what should we put forward to the people as a rule, so to speak, of how we think through a particular issue. So this is my personal halakha. I'm not saying it has to be yours. I don't hold that having a transfusion is drinking blood. Okay? If a person needs a transfusion in order to live, because of having surgery, or because their platelets are low, or because they have whatever numerous medical issues can arise, bleeding out, or whatever. I mean, there's a whole host of things that can happen. I err on the side of life. I don't think the person is taking a whole unit of blood and going, we're putting it into their veins so that they can have life, because we realize that blood oxygenates the person. So my personal halakha is different than what you would see in the Orthodox halakha, which many of them would say, don't do, since the Torah says don't ingest blood, I don't see you ingesting it by having it put into your veins in order to prolong your life. There's a quality of life, a quantity of life that can be had when you're having an infusion. I don't see that as a problem, me personally. Now, others are free to disagree. If you don't want one, you don't have to take one. Go ahead.
I think that's consistent with Torah because, like you said, you alluded to it, if the blood is the life, you are giving somebody life, I don't think Hashem would be offended.
I personally don't find it a problem. Some do. I'm just telling you how the other side thinks. They said, well,
I think it's consistent.
Right. Good.
In reference to what Christine said a minute ago, you said yourself when Adam and Eve, blood was never spilled until Adam and Eve sinned, and then God killed the animal and provided the skins.
Correct.
And I don't know if this is what God's talking about when you pour the blood back on the ground, but I had a friend, her father was very, very sick, and he had produced too much blood, so they had to drain blood off of him, and his wife would take the blood home and put them on her roses. She had the best roses that you've ever seen in your life. Whether it's related, I don't know, but that's what she did.
Okay.
And ingest means to take in by swallowing or absorbing, and it does not say by sticking it in your face.
I know.
There's no, I mean.
I'm telling you how others argue. I'm not saying I agree with them.
I'm just letting.
All I'm saying is this. I've had loved ones that have had transfusions because they needed it. And I didn't feel like it was in any way a violation of Torah for them to do so. That's just my own. And if given the opportunity to save you, that's why I had no problem with participating in Chris Moran's blood drive, because I think that we need shameless blood. But I think giving blood, you can do so, is a good thing, so that you can help save lives. All right, let me go to verse 29 now. Get in here. When the Lord your God cuts off from before you the nations which you go to dispossess, and you displace them and dwell in their land, take heed to yourself that you are not ensnared to follow them after they are destroyed from before you, and that you do not inquire after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? I also will do likewise. So last paragraph. In recent biblical studies and evangelical discussion, by the way, a lot of books on this now, it's a big issue. The conquest of Canaan by the Israelites has been a hot topic. The ethics and morality of Yahweh asking Israel to annihilate a whole race smacks many believers as ethnic cleansing, racism, and xenophobia. By the way, xenophobia just means you hate another race. It's just a nice big word for that. I have to throw out the big words every now and then because, well, if you have the education, you have to show that it's worthy of it. Okay. So that's the only reason I do it.
You're a snob.
It's a cultural snob thing. That's okay. I can live with that. Was the Elohim of Israel a bigoted racist who wanted to wipe out a whole people group just because they didn't worship him? Was the nation of Israel pawns in a game designed to use them so Yahweh could hide behind their actions? These and similar questions have come to the fore in recent years, with evangelicals coming to divergent answers. Many have chosen to disavow any connection of the New Testament Jesus with the bloodthirsty, quote, God of the Old Testament, as a way of separating themselves from Yahweh getting his hands dirty in the messiness of holy war. I am diametrically opposed to this line of thinking for numerous reasons that time and space does not allow me to articulate. However, pitting Yahweh against Yeshua does damage to both and is an injustice to the biblical text. In Deuteronomy 12:29, the text says that Yahweh will cut off the nations, Torah. The Israelites are going to dispossess and drive them out. The language used here is not language of obliteration, but of divine intervention to move the Canaanites out of the area and where they have been living, making them transitory and migrant. To be sure, There were military casualties that would occur when Israel moved into Canaan. But Israel was not commanded to destroy non-combatants. I believe we need a more robust textual understanding of Yahweh's command to deal with the Canaanites before we move to severing the ties between Yahweh and Yeshua.
How do you sever the tie?
Well, believe me, there's a bunch trying to do it.
So you're saying that the people went down, ran away, they didn't chase them out?
Yeah, he uses the language of drive them out and dispossess them and to cut them off. Which cut them off could also mean that he will cut them off. But here's the key. They're supposed to only engage combatants. The cities of Jericho and Ai were military outposts. And how did they fight in Jericho? You walk around it 7 times. Walk around once, walk around twice, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 7. God says, blow the trumpets, and the walls of Jericho collapse inward. Okay? So, God was going to fight for them, on their behalf, and I think most of it was cutting off. We'll talk about, later on we'll talk about cutting off them. Drive them out, dispossess them. In other words, I want you to move them out of the area. And only attack, if necessary, the combatants, not men, women, and children, those in burn. Okay? Yeah.
Referring to the battle against I believe the Amorites, the
Yeah.
descendants of the Rephaim, I believe those scriptures that actually said, destroy your men, women, and children.
Yes, some of them. There are places where that is. It is mentioned. There's different. You have Amorites, you have Canaanites. There's some debate as to whether those are interchangeable terms. Debates amongst biblical scholars whether those are interchangeable or not. I'm not saying that there wasn't some annihilation of those that got in God's way, but I don't think that it was. I don't think that it was a wholesale destruction of everybody. In fact, but we know this. We know when we read the conquest of Canaan by Joshua, in Joshua. Joshua will use hyperbole that we've utterly destroyed them. We've utterly annihilated them. The only problem is they show up again later on in the text. So I think that Israel's primary targets, if I can say it this way, their primary targets were to be militaristic, not to be just utter destruction for the sake of destruction, annihilation for the sake of annihilation. So that would be my. But I have more stuff on this that I want to do with us because I think it's an important topic. Clearly one that has become, within evangelical circles, a broad discussion topic.
My understanding is some of these were, in fact, were told to obliterate because of the extreme sexual immorality that they had been judged. Apparently there's some prophets that are going in, and God said, don't intermingle, don't, in fact, destroy them because I don't want that perversion getting involved with your
Yeah,
worship.
and I've made the argument in the past. I think that's a correct way of looking at it as well. What he's talking about is that there's so much perversion, but I think what really the real, besides the sexual perversion, the other real perversion that you see where I see God stepping in and saying, okay, we need to do something is, and I don't think humanity can have any problem with it ethically because here's the issue. You look at the time before the flood. You look at Sodom and Gomorrah. You look at the Canaanites. When you come to the place where humanity is so turned in on itself and is killing each other, that's when God steps in and says, okay, it may be time to put an end to this because they're already so turning against each other that they're destroying each other, and I need to step in. 1, 2, 3, 4, go ahead. 1.
Consider what the Canaan itself was conceived by the second person.
Yeah, I believe he was.
This was carried on through his life and through his offspring. And yeah, the dad said, God wanted to eliminate that.
Yeah, I think there's some, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
In the case of other tribes, the Israelites separate themselves from their ways. They got into trouble when they started making deals and contracts with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even to today, we see it.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
back.
I think you're right, they put the, context of like, God was 400 years patience with them, you know what I mean, the stopping, pre-flood, Sodom and Gomorrah kind of culture. And then also you've got, this, book at that point, it's kind of a historical document, we're talking about military culture. If you look at literature, previous wars, we've got quotes like, all the good blankets and dead blankets, we're going to have to blank them all out of existence. And so you've got a lot of military slogans that are, to boost morale and whatnot. That's part of war culture.
Right. And I think you see some of the exaggeration a little bit in Joshua, where he says we've destroyed, annihilated all of them. The problem is like they're
Look at our literature, people that are going into battle, they speak something like Emery. It's just
Right.
It's not fun.
right. There's some hyperbole in I think in the text. Yeah. Go ahead.
I may be off, but I kind of remember something about the inhabitants of Jericho and surrounding cities to have came from Sodom and Gomorrah.
There's belief that that's the case.
Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, some of this is also some of what we're dealing with. Now this is going to open up a whole can. I think you need to read. The Unseen Realm, and that is that here's what we're dealing with. One of the things he's trying to drive out in this whole drive out and destroy, this part destroy, is you have these Anakim and the Rephaim and the Nephilim, which are hybrid with humanity, that are creating large individuals. So think about this. You have Joshua, the children of Israel, when they go in the land, they say, the land is filled with giants. Yes, they were exaggerating, maybe we could say, but maybe not. They said, we look like grasshoppers in their sight. Then think about this. We know that some of those people migrate to the coast. They migrate to the coast, and what happens? David comes along. And the first person that David has to take on is Goliath. And this guy is a good-sized guy. He's not small. He's one of these big people. So I think that there's a big picture also going on, an overlay that's driving out the evil. Yeah, go ahead.
They recently in England, burying or digging down, actually found under a church, a grave that said, "Here lies Arthur of the Round Table."
Huh.
And inside the crypt, they found bones that are upwards of 15 feet tall.
Interesting. And you notice, I'm intrigued by that. I'd like to hear more. You notice that the two cities that Israel killed beforehand are Og and Bashan. Do some research on Bashan in the book The Unseen Realm. Bashan is an interesting place. As is Og. What do we know about Og? It says he has a bed that's 15 feet long. So why does the guy need a bed that's 15 feet long? Well, different topics. You make no comment the whole time. Huh?
How many dogs?
How many dogs? Yeah, how many dogs? Good. Then you just come up with that? Okay, fine.
One important thing is, God is sovereign.
Yeah.
Who are we to judge him?
That's right.
No, I agree. I disagree with that. But I do think we have to look within the text to understand as much as we can the rationale.
Please open your series to page 95 for the Elena.